it forced me to really get out of my shell, if you will. It forced me to keep living and really keep living in a powerful way. And at the same time, I would take points here and there to grieve.
Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome, everybody to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast Show. We've got another amazing guest. We got a real powerhouse. He's done sales up to yin yang. That's what I'm saying. And, he's really awoken to the spiritual aspect. And, he really brings that blend of the spiritual connection, the integrity with the sales. And he's got an amazing journey to share with you. He's had challenges, right? He's had health issues, whatnot. You'll see in a bit. He's got a lot of interesting perspectives and powerful truths to share with you to help you find that synergy. Because we were talking about before the show, a lot of spiritual people are needing more business energy and side, and then we got some business people need more of the woo, so to speak. So he brings it all together for you. So Bryan, it's really great to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We've spoken a couple times and it's been great. And I'm glad we were able to make this happen. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. And so Bryan May is a highly sought after breakthrough consultant who blends business acumen with spirituality to help individuals break through personal and professional barriers. With a background in real estate, Bryan has sold over 300 homes and facilitated more than $250 million in business transactions. So he's done a little bit of business, and yet his expertise extends far beyond the world of property. After experiencing significant personal challenges, including loss of his wife, battle with Crohn's disease, Bryan turned to self-improvement, spirituality, and various healing modalities to rebuild his life. Drawing from his personal experiences, Bryan now helps others overcome limiting beliefs, self-doubt, and life's inevitable plateaus. His unique style combines coaching with metaphysical practices to assist his clients in becoming the most authentic versions of themselves, obviously to rock it, in their personal growth, etc. So Bryan, my guess is, based on our conversations and my vibe of you is, there was a time when you were like, okay, I'm not saying you were screwing people, but like it's probably more like, what do we need to do to get these deals done? And I'm guessing you're more that type of guy, like more brass tacks business. Let's put it that way, not dark side maybe, but more brass tacks business without like paying attention to the spiritual side. That's what it looks like based on your background. So tell us about that. Like what happened? Like tell us your journey with that. Like building up, doing all this business, and it's supposed to be the greatest thing that ever happened, and having the high of that, I'm sure. And then how probably there was a crash, because kind of every story is the same with that, to be honest. And then how would you awoken to through the different crises you ran into, and yeah, tell us about that journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I would say brass tacks is a good way of looking at it. I've always been ethical and moral. So as far as that, but I like to get things done. I still have that New York kind of,
Yeah.
let's just get to the bottom line mentality. I still like to do the right thing. And now I have this spirituality. And I want to see where things are coming from. I want to look in the mirror and see why I'm ticking. And I like helping people realize why they're ticking, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I had some health issues growing up. Crohn's disease is a bad stomach issue. Was always super skinny, and then I had a major surgery. Got my stomach back. Started getting my life back. Started eating again. But yeah, I've been doing business since I was like 16. I was going into Manhattan doing computer consulting and different things like that. Opened up a brokerage later on. Eventually I sold that brokerage to one of the guys from Million Dollar Listing, and it's just been crazy, right? And then my whole New York was just like business hustle, driving all over the place, getting stuck in traffic, all this fun stuff that we hear about in New York. And then I had an extreme tragedy. First was COVID, which was very bad for everyone. And then in 2021, I lost my wife. My wife passed away. We have a son. He was 1.5 at the time. And, having my son, it, it caused me not to be able to just like lie down and cry and live in a dark space for months and months and months. I had to go to the beach. At this time, after she passed, I was in Florida, like I am now. So we would go to the park, we would go to the beach, we would go to the pool, right? We're talking about a 1.5, 2-year-old kid. So it forced me to really get out of my shell, if you will. It forced me to keep living and really keep living in a powerful way. And at the same time, I would take points here and there to grieve, right? And it was tough. It was very tough. And I remember the moment where, everyone talks about getting waves, and we get these waves of sadness, we get these waves of emotions, and they're big emotions. And I remember there was a small time period, maybe like a month or a month and a half, where I wasn't getting any waves anymore. And I remember driving in my car. I had a Spotify playlist that I listened to that reminds me of her. And I put it on, and I was like, you know what? It's okay if I don't get the wave, if I do get the wave. And this is just part of the human experience. And just like accepting it. And the next time I did get this wave of sadness, it was like I was happy that I had this wave, because now it's like I'm experiencing it from like a different angle, from a different perspective, and it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And have you experienced loss in your life?
I mean, yeah, I mean, everybody has, I guess, to some degree, right? I mean, I've lost, I haven't had that sort of loss, but I've had, my dad back in 2008, and yeah, so, but yeah, yeah, certainly different people in the family have passed away over the years, but yeah, I would say like the biggest. Yeah, my dad is probably the number one. I mean, my grandma was pretty big too, though. But yeah, my
Yeah,
dad is the biggest. I mean, it's like you don't know what it's like to lose that, like in this case, your wife. Like that's, yeah, wild with a little. I mean, that's unbelievable, really. I mean, to have a son that young and to be going through that, it's just unfathomable. But yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, like it's just, yeah, the waves are definitely a real thing. I mean, I'm an emotional guy. There's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't have tears in my eyes about something. They may not show on my face, but they're in
right.
there. Like they show up a little bit in my eyes if you looked at me closely enough.
Yeah.
The waves come for sure.
Oh yeah. And then this year in May of 2024, I lost my mother. And
Mhm.
so I feel like, all the work I've done on myself from losing my wife, it enabled me to get through it a lot easier. Obviously there's still waves, there's still grieving, everything is still there. But I think it's like anything else. When you know what's coming or something hits you, listen, getting hit with a crazy, powerful emotion for the first time, you're like, what's wrong? What's gonna happen? Is this ever gonna leave, or is it come back?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now that I've done the dance, it really was a little bit different, and it's powerful. Listen, these people that we lose, they're still with us. They're with us in our heart, they're with us in our mind, even with my son, something will happen. Okay, what do I think Devora would say? Right? It's like I have this almost like like these reality shows where they have three judges, and I feel like I have the what would I think, what does Devora think, what would we think, and try to come up with the best answer, best solution. So spirituality is really just going inward for me, and really just looking at myself in the mirror. And for me, it's like faith and fear are two sides of the same coin.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
we have these things that are happening in the future that are really unknowns. Life is a whole bunch of uncertainty. And so trying to think positive, not fake positive, not delusional positive, but just understanding like, hey, there's faith and there's fear, there's worry, there's doubt. Let's choose faith and let's go forward. We don't have as much control as we think we have. And let's just give it up to God. Let's give it up to faith and keep going.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today.
Yeah, that part I really like, right? Because most of us who are listening in right now are dealing with some, probably everybody has some scenario going on in their life where they're like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills this month. I don't know how I'm going to, deal with this relationship. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this health issue. I don't know how, and it just goes on and on, all the different things that could be going through someone's psyche, right? And so what happens is then your psyche gets consumed by those things because you want to see, like, how can I, deal with that thing? How can I get through the pain I'm feeling in this moment based on what I believe that might mean or what that's all about or what might happen and the fears of discomfort in the future, and then you feel it now, right? So like,
Yeah.
uh, but what you said is powerful because it's like, because that's one of my spiritual, a lot of spiritual teachers say that, but like one of my main spiritual teachers really hit me with that was, you're a lot less because I used to be like, no, I metaphysics, right? Because you're a big metaphysics guy.
Mhm.
Metaphysics, it takes you into a sense of control sometimes. This idea you just get your consciousness right, it all's working.
Yes.
But then, this other spiritual teacher I had, he was just like, yeah, but you're not as in control as you think. And I probably it sunk in, but part of me still wanted to fight it. I still want to fight it every once in a while, but I'm like, yeah, watch, I'll show you. Like, I'll control it.
Yeah. Right.
I can't control some of this stuff.
Right. What's the old quote? Man plans and God laughs, right?
Right. I had a friend that said that one time. I said, I got these plans. I'm gonna do this and that. He says, well, you're planning. Life's happening.
And I think, I love, I'm Jewish and I love Torah, Bible stories, New Testament, Old Testament, all religions. I think they're all so useful. I mean, these things have been around for north of 5,000 years, so they know what they're doing. And it's
Yeah.
like, when you think of like Noah's Ark, that's like the perfect example of faith and preparation, right? Because he knows this flood is coming. Everyone's laughing at him, self-criticism, right? He's probably doubting himself. People are like, why are you building this huge boat? He's preparing for this thing and he has the faith, right? So just I don't want people thinking like, oh, I don't have control, so I'm not going to do anything. Because see,
Right.
there's also all these dualities, and it's like this
Right.
life is not an on and off switch. It's more of a dimmer. So it's like we have to prepare. We have to prepare. We have to do what we can, but we also have to understand at the end of the day, something might happen.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you gotta let things, you know, here's our plan going into this football game, seeing as I watch some football. Here's how it's going to go. We're going to score a touchdown the first time, the second time, the third time, but somehow it doesn't happen. Right?
Yeah.
You don't score a touchdown every single time. And then when that doesn't happen, it's like, okay, I guess we're going to have to make some adjustments. And
Yeah.
that's how business and life are, right? I mean, we have to make the adjustments as things don't turn out perfectly the way we hoped and planned for.
Absolutely. And I work with a lot of business owners. I've done so much business consulting in my life, and I work with a lot of business owners that have lost someone and really getting them back on track, getting back in the business, right? Because a lot of times they will remove themselves. Some of these things are very rough, whether it's cancer, whether it's something else. And so getting them back into the business, taking back control, and it's very powerful, right? Because it's also reframing a tragedy into an opportunity, right? And it's like these dualities, like two things can be true at once. So really looking at these things in the most positive way possible and still giving yourself grace that it's a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. So let's dig into that with you. So, how, I mean, COVID, loss of your wife, you mentioned, um, how did it throw you off your bearings? And then how were you able to reorient yourself to, whatever was next for you? Because I mean, sometimes when those things happen, you're questioning absolutely everything about your life existence, even maybe sometimes, right? So tell us more about what unfolded for you and how you navigated it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely took a break of doing real stuff, right? Um, if you know, I think I would recommend anyone who did lose someone really try to take a real break, you know? Um, hopefully you have someone to delegate, but really try to step back, take a break. It's hard to tell people how long to take that break for, but you definitely want to like get your bearings straight as much as possible. And for me, you know, I went down this path of seeing hypnotists, shamans, spiritual people, metaphysicians, therapists, and I've taken like a little bit of each one of them, kind of like a Frankenstein approach, and you know, put this my own pizza pie together, a slice of each, because they all had certain things, including religion. I mean, I've met with many rabbis and just trying to get everything together, get meaning as much as I can, and just accepting that acceptance is the biggest thing. And sometimes accepting that I don't accept it is a big thing,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah.
accept whatever you can, because we have to do as many reframes as possible, right? The reframing is the most important, that, hey, this is what life is now. It's almost like, hey, I'm an alien. I'm showed up into this body today. This is the inventory of my life. This is what I have to deal with. And let's move forward like that. You know, you're never going to forget your loved one. And that's a great thing. We don't want to forget our loved ones. They're always going to be with us, but we're living in this 3D world. We have to eat, we have to make money, we have to do all the things that business people do. And so we have to carry on and use them as a legacy, use them as a memorial, use them as energy, as power to get us there. That's really the important part.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. So, mm, so yeah, so with your wife, how is that? I'm curious though, like a
Yeah.
normal conversation, like how was she inspirational for what's happening for you now as a legacy?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm always thinking about that. She always loved helping other women. You know, she ended up becoming during 2019 or 2020, right around the time my son was born, she became I can't remember what it's called, but like doing skincare, makeup, facials, thing like esthetician. She became an
Yes.
esthetician, and you know, women talk, and she really liked helping people, and so it was a great thing for her. And so with my son, you know, we always talk about her. We have pictures all over the house. I'm in a new relationship where and it's great. One of the reasons that I'm with Shelly is because she's so accepting of Devora, right? Like we have photos, like even behind me, there's photos of Devora and me and Max, my son. And so I think really having the memory there, you know, like instead of what would Jesus do, like what would this person want me to do
Right.
that we've lost, right? And going from a place of really love and compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. So just how she cared for people is one of the things I'm hearing, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. She had a very big heart.
So, I mean, what disconnections did you maybe have with your own heart and how you're navigating your businesses and your life and whatnot prior to this happening? Because that's what I sense. There probably were some disconnections.
Yeah.
You're a good person, but like there's probably disconnections. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, you know, I think that authenticity is so important. I think really being who you are. And Devora grew up in a very religious, Jewish religious community in Brooklyn. And there was a lot of judging and shaming. And I would always show her how to like stop caring what other people think. Just be yourself, you know, show up, stand up tall, you know, just own it, you know, own whatever you have. And I think that that's so important. You know, people really care in a negative way what people think. So there's certain people in your life that you should care, right? Like you said, we spoke about your father that passed away. For you to have a thought like, hey, what would my dad think of this? That's probably something good. At the same time, thinking about what the guy standing next to you at the supermarket, that's something bad. If it's stopping you from doing something, then it's bad, right? So for me, you know, if I have a thought, a belief, an idea, and it's no longer serving me, then I don't want it. you know? And so like your people are your people. You have all these people that are listening to this show right now. They tune in every month or every week to listen to you. They're your people. And so you really, I almost look at it like a comedian who's standing on a stage and there's all these people and he's focusing on the one guy who's not laughing. That's not your person. You got to focus on the people that
There's
are
one
laughing.
not laughing. I must be no good. Right.
Exactly. And I think that's what happens a lot. You know, I like using analogies and metaphors. And it's like, let's say heavy metal. And now let's say rap. And now let's say classical. You know, if you're playing the best heavy metal album in the world to people that love classical, they might not like it. That doesn't mean you suck. That means you have the wrong audience. And so it's when you're really authentic and you're really just like, hey, you know, that doesn't mean you can't work on yourself. That doesn't mean you can't better yourself. But hey, this is who I am. You know, the people that don't like you, it's a blessing because let them find their own band, their own comedian, let them live their own life. But at least for me, I want the people around me that support me, that love me for who I am. And that's what it is. And that's what I show my clients because there's so many people that are trying to please other people. Most of the fears that we have, fear of rejection, fear of failure, all these things, they relate to that they care about what other people think. Maybe not what every single person thinks, but they're caring what the wrong people are thinking.
Right. Well, I get a lot with guilt for you in the past, especially like things where you'd feel you'd be put under a pressure of guilt. Well, you whatever you I don't know what it is exactly, but you feel it like you didn't do you, and it break your heart is what the feeling I get. And so, but you try not to show it, right? Because of that vulnerability. It's a guy thing too, right?
Yeah.
As well often. So for you, you just keep barreling through things, and try to do your best. And I think, what you're saying is you've learned to trust your heart and to just, I'm myself. If you like it or not, you got a problem with it, you want to try to guilt me, whatever.
Yes.
Right. Kind of
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, I think a lot of people have problems with guilt.
Right.
You know, when you give, right? Like you're a giver. When you give, you're giving from a place of love. But when you're giving from guilt because someone makes you feel guilty or a negative emotion, you're giving to get rid of a discomfort. And it's a negative kind of thing. So you really, I think guilt is so important, right? Like that's one of the negatives about religion. One of the negatives about religion is that there's a lot of guilt involved, right? We've all heard the phrase Jewish guilt, and there's also Catholic guilt. And so we want to move away from that, right? We want to move away from these negative emotions and we want to stick to the positive ones. Not that we need to be happy all the time, but there's a difference between being angry, sad, or someone trying to guilt and manipulate.
Right. My mom, she's Greek, and she said, she always talks about the Greek way these days, especially as she's gotten older. We got to do things the Greek way, and it's just like some made up stories about what this even means, right? One way, the Greek way, or what? It's like the Greek way, and not. And Mom, if you're listening, I love you. So because I know.
First of all, I love the Greek way. I guess because I'm from New York, I have many Greek friends. I think that Greeks have the best food known to man. That I can say for sure. Best food known to man. And I think that they have a lot of things down. I think it's a great history for sure.
Yes. But the part where she brings up that's I think unnecessary, but there's virtue in there's virtue in guilt, there's virtue in everything, but there's the virtue of suffering. Like, we've got to suffer. That's the Greek way. She kind of makes fun of it, but she still does it. Still, you gotta suffer, and things got to become hard sometimes, and let it be hard, and just suffer. And it's like that this. Some people believe suffering builds character and it brings you closer to God, and then other people are like, we don't need any of that. Let's just be in the bliss. And neither one is true. To me, it's like you're saying, it's a palette. It's a mix of all of it.
Yeah. And I love practical strategies, right? Like I love meeting with someone and like right after they can do something to move their life forward. That's really what I'm about. And so like setting timers, I think is so important. Like someone will say, I keep having this negative thought. So it's like by me saying, don't think about it anymore, isn't gonna help. But if I tell them, hey, you know what? I want you to set a reminder for 20 minutes. I want you to just think about this one thing for 20 minutes. And then I want you to set a reminder for an hour, get back to work, get back to the gym, get back to your life. And you're not going to think about that for that hour. And then when the next bell rings, we'll set another timer for 20 minutes and then you could focus on it. Right. And it's like a Pomodoro kind of timing effect. And I think that it's very powerful because you'd be surprised when you set timers, it's so important. And with changing identities, right? Like with, let's say you're like, okay, I'm sick of being this version and I want to be this version. You have to remind yourself. And one of the things I do is like, I tell people, set a timer to go off ding every 10 minutes. So that way, every time that ding goes off, you're reminding yourself of this new thing. Because if you're 20, 30, 40 years old, you have a lot of experience being this identity. So to change, and that doesn't mean you're changing everything about you, but to change a behavior, to change a thought, you know, you might have to remind yourself a bunch of times, a bunch of days, a bunch of weeks to get that away. Because a lot, you know, it's funny. It's like, is that my personality or is that just a behavior? Is that just a bad habit? Right. And so we have to figure that out, because I like when people say personality is personal reality. And you can change that. You can change that, right? Like a lot of people overcompensate. They try to be overly tough, like kind of like what you were getting at, or they try to be overly anything, right? It's just like this overcompensation. And we want to, if you are okay with that, then be okay with that. But if you want to change, we're going to have to break it step by step.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I think a lot of people think with hypnosis and spirituality, and it does happen, right? Like there are a lot of times where something will happen and something clicks and it's immediate. Now, those are amazing, right?
Yeah.
Those are absolutely amazing. The thing is, it doesn't work for every part of your life.
Right.
And so for the things that aren't an immediate click, I'll give you an example. If you've never been to the gym and you want to start going to the gym for health reasons, it's probably not going to be an immediate click. You know, right now we're coming up to the new year. People are going to go to the gym in January and by February 5th, they're out. So,
yeah.
like, you know,
This last year, I took a picture of the gym right around that time after January. I'm like, they've already given up. They're all gone.
yes,
Empty gym
yes.
practically, right? And then they start coming back again as the year goes on. But like like February is like dead at the gym. Like
Exactly. February is just like the regular people that go there. And so for something like that's a perfect example of something that's not going to be like this.
Right.
And you know what? There's going to be times that you're not going to want to go. And I'm even talking for myself. Like I love going to the gym. I went today, I go all the time, but there are many days that I don't want to go. And what I do is I just lower the bar. I just go. I'll go for 10 minutes. Listen,
Yeah.
I'll just go sometimes. I'll go to the restroom. I won't even go lift weight, nothing. I'll go to the restroom. But in my head, what am I doing? I'm going to the gym.
I went to the gym. Yeah.
And I know, and the average person, if they go to the gym and go to the restroom for 5 days, chances are they're going to try one of the equipment.
Right, right. I'm going to go to the gym every day. Just go to the bathroom and leave. But
You know what?
you're
It's
right.
better.
We'll start exercise because, well, I may as well do something while I'm here, right? And
Exactly.
that's so true. I mean, that is a great technique because that's kind of, yeah, one of my advices over the years too. Like, well, I don't know. I don't want to meditate so much. All right, just sit down, meditate for 2 seconds. If you know, and it's crack. I don't care. Just do it. You know.
Yeah.
The same time, you know, same right when you wake up, because by the time you get to do anything afterwards, you're already thinking you'll do it later because your mind wants to keep you so far away from presence, separation mind, right? And it's like, you know, okay, you just do it, right? And so, yeah, I love that because that's what I do too at the gym. I don't, okay, I got this big routine. I got to keep doing it and do it forever and keep building and do more exercises forever, right? Like, it's like, okay, I'm going to go and, you know, I have a plan and, you know, maybe I'll decide to do more, maybe I'll do less, maybe I'll do exactly what I'm planning. I don't get too strict on that, but I'm more focused on you go in every single time you said you will as best as you can, you know?
Yeah.
And I do. So yeah,
It's
and
great.
that's it with business for our listeners. Like, if you want to get a business going or really to grow it, there's certain activities that have to be done. You got to quit avoiding them, and that's the thing.
Yep.
They avoid the marketing and the sales. They'll say, "I'm working on my Kajabi. I'm working on the back end funnels. I'm working on all this stuff because it's, you know, might be interesting or fun, but it also keeps them away from like the business because that's scary. I may have uncomfortable conversations, which are, the norm when you're doing regular marketing and sales. You have a lot of uncomfortable conversations, but that's where
Yeah.
all the growth is, right? I mean, that's how I see it. So
Yeah, I mean, I always get cringed out when people are like, I'm starting a new business and I'm trying to figure out the name and the logo.
right, right.
No one cares about the name. No one cares about the logo. I'm just doing something right now with cold callers. And, at the beginning, before I got involved, they were saying, hi, this is John. I'm calling with ABC Company and my boss is XYZ and all. I'm like, no one cares. No one cares. If you were calling from Michael Jordan's office, that's a different story. They
Right.
don't know your company name. They don't care. Just get right into it. Like, sometimes people get lost in the sauce, like you were saying. Like, the most important thing is outreach. If
Right.
people don't know you, they can't do business with you. And you have to do business with strangers. The whole idea of business is turning strangers into customers. And so if you're not out there, and look, like even for me, just to start doing these podcasts and putting out videos and things like that, I had to go through my own shedding process and get over my own discomfort. I do this a lot for people with cold calling. They're afraid to pick up the phone and call. That's how relationships, business relationships start.
Yeah. Well, definitely with the cold calling. I mean, one of my colleague friends, and I've got to know a lot of people through all these years, right? But he's the only one that personally calls me regularly. Now, I don't talk to him usually ever, but he'll leave a message. Hey, this is so and so, yeah, we need to talk. It's been a while. Call me, because we do know each other enough where he can say something like that. But yeah, he just keeps calling and he keeps sending me messages, emails and stuff. Um, and even though I could say part of me is like, come on, you're annoying. Like, would you just let it go? Part of me is like, damn, he's a persistent son of a gun, like you got to respect it.
Yeah.
Like to me, I respect it. Like I respect it, even if I may never do business with him, in the future, but I still respect it. I mean, and he's always there, right? So that puts in your mind, like, well, maybe if I do business, he'll be there for me, right? Like,
Yeah. I
those things
think that
matter.
I think people have a fear of being annoying. People have a
Mhm.
fear of being pushy, right? The fact is that if God forbid you're on death row, which attorney do you want? The one that doesn't pick up the phone or the persistent guy that keeps calling and keeps going and doesn't take no for an answer? Trust me, when you're in a situation and you need legal assistance, you're going to want the annoying guy. You're going to want the guy that's not going to just say, okay, well, I just called 10 minutes ago. So you know what? It's okay. We'll just leave him in the cell until tomorrow.
Mhm.
He's not going anywhere, right?
Right.
When it's your life on the line, you want the aggressive person. And
Mhm.
so you have to, once again, your people are your people. You can always tell this guy, hey, you know what, John? You're a great person, but you're really annoying. Don't call me again.
Right.
You
I can.
can.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're not doing that is he must not be annoying you enough. And you, in
Right.
the back of your head, you're like, hey, maybe this guy is going to help me. Maybe there's going to be some synergy later on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's possible at least, right? Stay open to it. I'll read some of his emails, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm curious, so curious. I'm like, yeah, probably not, but let me take a look, right? Whereas if
Yeah.
he wasn't giving me phone calls, I'd probably be just deleting all the messages more so, right? So
Correct.
paying more attention than I would otherwise. And this is where, just so people know, like, this is what spiritual people often need. Like, they need more of this brass tacks, practical stuff to integrate in, and it's so spiritual because how are you going to bring any breakthrough into your life and other people's lives if you're just, yeah, I'm just with all the spiritual ideas and I pray every day, and yet my results are worse or the same, like
Yeah.
usually getting worse, right? Usually getting worse eventually because God's like, you don't get it. I have to bring you more pain.
Yeah.
So
And
you,
I think that with spiritual people, a lot of times they pick bad audiences. Now,
yeah,
that doesn't mean that the audience is bad, but it means that everyone runs on money. This still is a 3D world.
yeah,
So if you want to help people that don't have money, you need to interact and transact with people that do have money so you can have money so you can help people that don't have money. So
right,
it's like you're on an airplane, you got to put the oxygen mask on you first. If you're not going to put the oxygen mask on you, you're going to save two people and then you're going to die. And
right,
so, that's why if you want to do like, using the legal example, if you want to be a pro bono attorney, that's great. You're helping people. But if you don't have money, then you really can't be a pro bono attorney, right? So I think that spiritual people, they're afraid to charge, but then they have no problem spending $10,000 to see Tony Robbins or one of these other people that are amazing,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's like they're afraid to charge because of a self-worth. That's because of their self-worth. You always have to act as if you have a huge pipeline, right?
Mhm.
If you had 20 people, 50 people, 100 people trying to get your time, you only have so much time in the day.
Right.
So I think that's a big issue with spiritual people. I think it's number one, getting out there and really charging a good amount, because this is the thing. In any business, you're not charging a lot just to say I charged a lot. You're charging a lot so you can do the right thing. Okay? So if I charge you 20 bucks and then you keep calling me, what am I going to say? This guy's really annoying. If I charge you $20,000 and you call me at 3 a.m, I'm going to be able to bite that bullet because I'm like, okay, that's why I charged him this month, so he can have complete access to me. So I think that it's very important. I see that in business as well, right?
Mhm.
Like if you do the right thing, like you're a landscaper and
Mhm.
the tree dies a year later. Now, if you just charge just enough to pay for that day, you're not going to want to go back and replace the tree. And trust me, what happens is then the client will badmouth you. But the
Right.
guy who charged the right amount, the guy who charged what it is to give the full service, a year goes by, hey, my tree died. He's in there, he's replacing the tree. And then that guy is going to tell everyone in the community, you're not going to believe this. I used this guy. A year later, he replaced my tree.
Right. Right.
So I think that that's a concept that a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, no, that's great that you share it that way. I mean, a lot of people aren't thinking that way. They're thinking, what like in this type of business, healers, coaches, and whatnot, they're thinking, what's the going rate? What do other people charge? Like, I can't tell you how many healers have told me, yeah, I don't know. I look around, in the neighborhood, who's charging what, and then that's what I got to see where I fit in and all those rates and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
who gives a damn what other people are charging? What's the value of what you do? They always say priceless, and then we work down to an actual chargeable amount, right? Then because it
Yes.
makes it easy. When I get them to admit it's priceless, then we can look at like what they'll actually charge, and then land them at that level. So, but yeah, I mean,
I've worked with people, just so you know, I have worked with people that are charging $50,000, and I've worked with people charging $50. No
yeah,
exaggeration. Both those things are
yeah,
true.
yeah,
And it's coming from inside. It's coming from a self-worth. It's coming from a self-esteem. And listen, it doesn't mean that day one you'll be able to charge 50,000. And it doesn't mean that maybe you should never charge 50,000. But you want to charge enough that it's going to boost you up, right? Like you
right,
want to do the right thing. And also that other person, you want to make sure that they have skin in the game, that they're going to be there, right? You want them to also be held accountable. Like being accountable is a huge part. Like with my clients, one of the things that's been a game changer for me is I love voice notes, right, on WhatsApp.
yeah,
And
me too.
so whenever they're in a situation where they're having a negative emotion, a panic attack, a fight with a whatever, I always have them voice note me right away. Because that way, when we're talking, we can listen to it together, and now all of a sudden you're seeing where the limiting beliefs are. You're seeing what they're really thinking, because in those moments usually you're more like you've dropped all the BS, so you're like really there. And then now we have something to go based on, because if they just wait and then I see them a week later, all that kind of died down, right?
Right.
Like it's not as crisp as it was at the beginning. So I want to get it right then and there. And even like perfect example, if they say, hey, I'm definitely going to go to the gym tomorrow, and they wake up and they don't go, I'm not there to beat them up. I'm there for them to say, this is why I didn't go to the gym. This is what I was feeling. And let's find the block.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, exactly. I mean, we're the same way in a sense on many of those things. It's we both have hearts. We, big hearts. We, like to talk, quite frankly. So we're like, yeah, let's talk.
Yes.
And we like to keep ourselves and other people accountable, because we know ultimately you'll feel better, and you'll feel better about your life, and you'll create more good for your life and other people's lives ultimately by doing that, in my opinion. There's always people
Yes.
that disagree with everything, but yeah, which is
Yeah.
great. So, but I mean, Yeah, I mean, okay, like, yeah, I did some of those accountability outreaches on WhatsApp today. I'm like, all right, here I got it right here. Your goals, what you said you get done. How's it going? And I go through the whole thing. This thing, this thing, this thing. Report back to me on all this. And they're reporting back to themselves, is how I see it. I just
Yeah.
keeping them accountable, right? I mean, it's just the usual. And then if it's not happening, I'm the same way. I don't browbeat them and, oh, you idiot, what are you doing? I
You
said
know,
more
it's,
like,
yeah,
okay, when are you going to get it done then? Or we could review, like, if they have a bunch of emotions, and we could unpack that. Okay, what's that? Work through it.
exactly.
So, in your case, it sounds like maybe you help them dismantle the false beliefs as well, right? So all those things are great.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the solution isn't what it is. Like they think that not going or not doing or maybe drinking or whatever the negative thing, that's just the mask.
Yeah.
That's not the real problem, right? Like people always say like, oh, you have a drinking problem. No, 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 you have another problem and the solution is drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to figure out what that other problem is. So just me cursing at you or yelling at you, that doesn't mean sometimes you do have to use some tough love, but
Mm-hmm.
let's use it as a moment to be like, where's that level of discomfort? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's usually what it's about. It's about discomfort. It's about not wanting to change, not wanting to make moves. And we as humans, we don't like change.
Right, right. So yeah, people go through cycles too. I mean, most people, if they're personal development junkies, they'll be like, I'm doing everything. I sign up for every course, and they're doing all this stuff. Maybe they're even doing tons of stuff in their career or business or whatever. They're doing all of it. They're doing. I'm doing all of it. I'm all in, and then
Yeah.
I guarantee eventually what will happen is they're like, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. And they also now they can't, they're saying no to a bunch of stuff there, and then they beat up on themselves. They're not doing it anymore, right? So that
Yep.
always happens to everyone that does that all in. I mean, on everything. So there's like this, there's that balance. We talk about the spiritual versus, the practical business, 3D stuff or whatever. So how do you work with clients on that? Because there are, I imagine, you get plenty of go-getters, that you work
Yeah.
with. How do you help them to, when they hit those rough discomfort spots, to utilize that as a way to deepen connection and not just be like accountability, doing machines, mindset machines, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, and I love different kinds of personality tests. There's this other thing I can't think of the name right now, but I like going into that where you like give your date of birth and a couple things. Um, I'm not like such an astrology kind of person, but the point is like, who are you? Right?
Mhm.
Let's figure out who you are. Like a lot of people that I work with, they're not like super alpha, right? But maybe they want to be more of a leader, more of an executive, right? So being honest with who you are is step one, right?
Mhm.
If if you know you're going to get burnt out, if you're trying to be something that you're not, going back to authenticity, that's a sign of burnout, right? So we
Yeah.
have to figure out who you are, what you like. And the first question I'm going to ask is, what are you actually executing? So if
Right.
you're a personal self-help junkie, great. I love it too. What are you executing on? So then that goes into two kinds of people. The person that you said who's executing on everything, and then the people that are not executing on enough or nothing. So then we have to figure
Right.
that part out. And it's funny because a lot of people, they don't need to be executing on everything. You don't need to get up every day at 4 a.m. and pray and cold bath and all these other things, right? Like if you're that kind of person,
Mm-hmm.
God bless you. That's amazing. But most people aren't. So we have to figure out who you really are. And the whole point is, what is the goal? And let's really figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are we, like you said, are we doing the back end stuff of the business because we're too afraid to actually make the call or to make the video?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to actually move us forward, right?
Right.
In a spiritual way, which is helping people.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to somebody who's, been a client previously, and actually, I've helped outside of a paid container here and there too, and I thought was really helpful. I reached out to them the other day, and I asked them if they were ready, for this next level or whatever. Just following up with them, and they put in no. Just said no. That's all I said.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
of course, so that's perfectly fine, totally acceptable. Everything's acceptable. It's just like, but emotionally, like I felt discomfort. I felt triggered. I felt like, well, that was cold after all I've done for you. Is
Right.
what my mind's saying, right? But I just know it's the game of my mind, right? I know I'm like, okay, and you just feel uncomfortable, you feel hurt, rejected, whatever. Okay, that's fine, I just, so I said something nice, wished her well and everything, and we'll be in touch, I'm sure, again at some point. But yeah, because then your mind goes into so many questions, right? What are they thinking? Oh my God, and do they hate me now or whatever? And
Right.
all these ideas come up, and you even when they're not probably true, your mind still plays those games based on all the wounds that we've had from a childhood or whatever. And so, but you have to, the only way to work through that stuff, I don't think, is in isolation. Well, I just sit here and do my false belief thing all day, and that's all I do. No, you can't just do
Right.
the inner work. You got to get out there and confront it in the field as well. You got to do
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. I mean, listen, sometimes I just ask.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes just ask, where a lot of times we're so afraid to ask, if you, um, if you ask like, hey, what did you think of the work we did together? How did it impact you? And then they say all these good things. Okay, can you give me a testimonial?
Mm-hmm.
Like work on it like that, and then ask them, if you're having those moments of doubt, hey, I'm starting a new program, or what do you think I could have done to improve?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just, I don't care what it is, as long as we're not just in our head. Because what ends up happening is that person says no, we're in our head, we have all these hypotheticals, and then
Right.
instead of trying to get the new clients, we're just
Right.
busy, and then we're drained, and then we go to
Yes.
sleep.
Yeah. Our conscious is still working on the old one.
Yeah.
We didn't close the loop. We
Yeah.
didn't loop on it. You're right. So, I mean, that's why it's so brilliant, to ask so many questions, right? Like the best and most effective salespeople ask questions, more
Yeah.
questions than people that don't. So, that makes sense in what you said because, you don't just stay there with that curiosity and just sit with it. You'll tend to ask the person, well, I'm curious why you would just say no. I mean, why would you say no? I would think you would say yes. But I mean, it's fine, whatever you say, but, like just have the
Yeah.
conversation about it. But I was in a hurry. I did at that moment in time. I just was like, I'm not going to continue this one right
Yeah.
now.
Listen, I don't always do it. It
Right.
depends, but we can't let those kind of things affect our self-esteem. We
Yeah.
can't let those kind of things affect our self-worth.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so, like, if you look at a child or even a puppy, I don't really like cats, but if you look at a cat and you like cats, like, they're worthy, they don't have a bank account. Right. So let's not, like, when you're cold calling, and we're just talking about that, or talking to a client, existing client, and they say no, that shouldn't affect you.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is affecting you, that doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it means, like, okay, why is this triggering me? Like, why am I putting my value and my worth on this person? And
Right.
then let's try to figure that out, because chances are they're going through their own thing. Chances
Right.
are they're not thinking about you. Chances are they're doing their own thing. And we don't want to get bogged down, because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when you have a good support group, it's going to be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I mean that is the key I find like for a lot of people is having the support group, whatever is the right support group for them. Because and I would say the right one, because you could have people supporting you that just it doesn't work, like you
Yeah.
don't actually feel supported, you're getting bad guidance or advice for you. All those things. You're in the wrong match, and so you have to find that right match.
It's so much
But
about compatibility, you
Mhm.
know? And so we have to understand that, listen, let's just really be who we are. Let's just really say what we feel. I don't like putting people down. I don't think that's a good thing, but, like, just say what you feel, say what it is. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't resonate, great.
Right.
But let's just keep it going. When it comes to food, people are always good about that.
Hmm.
When it comes to food, if I'm like, oh, I don't like spicy, no one's like, oh my God, I'm so offended for all the spices in the world. No, no one does
Yeah, the
that.
spicy yeah, the spicy thing. Well, you don't like spicy? Why not? I'm so offended.
But how true is it that if a man goes up to a woman, depending on how old, where they are in their life, and the woman says no, all of a sudden they're defeated. Why? Because one out of how many billions of women are there said
Right.
no.
All right.
You know,
For
you don't
whatever
know what's
reason,
going
yeah.
on.
They might say
There's-
yes tomorrow, and yet you're worried about they just said yes, no today, or maybe they're not a match or whatever, right? There's millions of
exactly.
scenarios.
I always, you know, a lot of times I'll do like kind of dating-ish coaching. You know, sometimes people lose someone and then they want to get back in the field or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, stop putting all your value or put them on a pedestal. If you went up to 1,000 women that you thought were beautiful, or if it's a female, if you went up to 1,000 men that you thought were charming and beautiful or whatever, would 1 out of 1,000 say yes? Almost every single person I ask this question to say absolutely. 1 out of 1,000 will say yes.
Right.
But you only asked out one girl and she said no, and you think you're not worthy.
Right.
So go to the 999 and then let's see what's going on. Right. You know, it's like data set, right? Like I think you were telling me that one of your podcast guests are more like data-ish, right?
Yeah.
Like a data set can't be two people. You know, just because if I just say the same thing to two people and they both say no, that doesn't necessarily mean that what I'm saying is bad.
Right. The next 10 people might say yes.
Exactly.
I've had that, you know, I've had that in sales, you know, many times, right? Where for whatever reason you go on a run and it's like, man, everybody's saying no. I can't believe this. Well, that's 10 calls. 10 calls. You hear me? 10 calls.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then the next 10 calls, they all say yes. You're like, wow. And then you start thinking, well, now it must be my skill got better. And then, but it happens again, like something like that happens again. You just start realizing you don't have as much control as you thought, right? Like you do evaluate everything, but like you don't have as much control as you thought. And that's that surrender. Because I really want to keep connecting back to that spiritual piece here as we're wrapping up. It's like, guys, what we're saying is like you have to give it to God, you know, give it over to God. We don't know why, you know, you don't know why. I mean, you can be curious and whatnot, but you have to kind of surrender like the why, you know, because you'll never know why completely. Nobody even knows why. Though even the person that you ask them, well, why? Well, blah 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 blah. That's what they just believe. Yeah, you don't even know if that's the real why, right? You don't know what the why is, so you don't really know. You have to surrender that part, and you have to just keep showing up, doing what you know you're meant to do, and yeah, do the things that are authentic to you is what I'm hearing, you know, as we're wrapping this up. For you, it seems like your ultimate, like, you know, it was just one thing we had to say. Like your whole thing is authenticity. Like as long as you're being authentic, you're going to do well. Things are going to go well in your life and business, right? That's what I'm
If
hearing.
half the country hates you, you could be president.
Right, exactly.
Haters are good. And I just want to say one last thing about the sales and stuff that you said, and it has to do with spirituality. Conviction is so important. And when you go to a restaurant and you love that restaurant, or you watch a Netflix series and you love it, think about how you tell your friends that they should check it out. And so when you think about Moses and the burning bush, right? And then he has to go and speak to Pharaoh, and he has to tell him to let his people go and all this stuff. Think about the level of conviction. Yes. Not only did the Egyptians hate him, the Jews hated him too. Everyone wasn't a big fan of him. And his brother's standing right there and he has to deal with it, right? And the brother's not even that sure. And so just think of the level of conviction. And even though all these people are saying no, he knows that it's the right thing to do. And it's very hard to stand up when that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, Moses may probably thought many times I'm a complete failure at times. I mean, I imagine, based on his story, we're the milk and honey land. Where are we? You know, we're still not there. All these whatever amount of years it was later, this was forever, and you know, it's never going to happen. I'm a failure. I must not be listening to God enough. You know,
yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
The truth is you don't know why it's happening. You have to surrender that part, but you keep showing up for what you believe in, what you're convicted about. Like you said, like it's the conviction you have of what you truly feel is true for you, what you believe in, what you want to stand for. And that's what matters. And I hear yours is authenticity for business people to, you know, really blend the spirituality with the practicalities and all that. So that's fantastic. Yeah. So I know as we're starting to wrap up, People, there are going to be people that want to hear more from you. You'd be brilliant. I hope are doing some clips on Instagram. You have some good ones, I bet. So I hear people could follow you on Instagram. Do you want to tell them about that?
Yeah, definitely. Follow me on Instagram. It's Bryan.May, BRYAN.MAY, Bryan.May.
Okay,
Check me out.
Yeah, check him out. Follow him. I'll be checking him out. And so we're at the part of the show where we do the energy scan segment. So this is where I do a couple of downloads for my guests. Bryan, are you ready to receive?
100%.
Awesome. So this is a great chance for you guys to get a download for yourself, because usually there's an intersection with your life is whatever I'm picking up here with what I'm picking up for Bryan. Okay, one moment. Yeah, so one of those things I see is just those thing of like just like there's something about it. I hear clerical and stuff. So I hear like maybe it's a past life, who knows, but I just get a sense of like you really are a truth teller, ultimately. You're like, listen, all this stuff is BS, like so if there's a system of belief that just keeps perpetuating, and the clerical circles was one that just kind of popped in from a past life, probably, you're just like, no, this isn't the real truth. This is the real truth. And so I really love that about you, because I mean, I've heard it through the show, but like I saw it, and the tuning in. So let me get one more download. Yeah. Again, you have many messages to give people, but one of the messages I'm hearing from your soul too is like, and what you've maybe learned too a bit is, or a lot, um, you have a lot more strength than you think. Like, you might think like, man, I don't know, I'm really strong, but like this is too much, and I can't go anymore, and all that whole thing, right? And then it's like, your belief in yourself ultimately, people have helped you to believe in yourself, and how you help other people to believe in themselves, like gives them that strength they didn't even know they had, to persevere. And so I think that's really, really
100%.
so important. Yeah.
Resilience.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like it resonates for you, right?
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Love
All right,
it.
guys. So yeah, if you guys want to check me out, go to yoursacredpurpose.com. There you will find the opportunity for energy scanning for me to tune into you, see more of what's going on for you, and how that intersects with your business and your purpose. So look at the like a Rock Your Sacred Purpose energy scan consultation. You also get a free meditation, my Meditate and Make Money meditation, where I open up your energy and your chakras, so you listen to my meditation and you listen to your guides. And we just start turning on the abundance energy, right? The money energy, and you start getting new downloads. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, I feel the abundance. I don't have to believe in it. I could just know and feel it, because that's what gets into you, and you get your information and guidance on what's next as well. So check that out at yoursacredpurpose.com. All right. So, Bryan, as we're wrapping up, do you have any last words of wisdom for the audience?
Just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want to get a copy of that meditation myself. It sounds super interesting. And listen, just everyone, if you're tall, stand up tall. If you're short, be short. Just be whatever you are. Decide what you want to be. And that's the best advice I can give you. Just own it. Double down.
Double down. Yes. Okay. Awesome on who you are. I love it. Thank you so much, Bryan. It's been amazing to have you. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody listening. Like I always say, keep on tuning in, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time.
For listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.